Thank you for your enthusiastic response to Restoring Health Holistically. I would just like to make clear that I am not a medical practitioner. In order to heal my own illness over the past 17 years, I've become a holistic health author, educator, and an advocate. But this does not provide the depth of knowledge that's needed to treat illnesses. I research any illness I have, and then I make an appointment with a holistically trained practitioner to discuss a treatment plan. And this is a collaboration between you and your doctor. Western medicine primarily treats symptoms with drugs forever. I prefer to seek practitioners who are trained to treat the causes of illness so that I will get well. The titles that I look for are naturopathic doctor, or ND, functional MDs, orthomolecular doctors, chiropractic neurologists, and certified energy medicine practitioners. These TV shows are intended to raise consumer awareness of holistic treatments and explain how they work so that you can make informed decisions and find a practitioner to work with and get well. Thank you. After 3 years of interviewing holistic practitioners on Restoring Health Holistically, viewers finally get to interview me this season, which we're calling Ask Gracelyn. For those new to the program, let me give you a little background. I ended my bipolar symptoms in 2002 using only specific natural supplements. I wrote Healing Depression and Bipolar Disorder Without Drugs in 2006, which led me to giving 7-hour continuing education seminars for medical practitioners across the United States. Doctors loved all the science in that book, but many patients confessed at workshops that they had a hard time reading long books. So they asked for a short guide that would, without all the science, that would help them find healing. Writing Who's Crazy Here, my second book, was my response. It has what you need to do to restore holistic mental health and 9 different mental diagnoses. That book led to me being appointed to serve on the Connecticut Children's Mental Health Task Force in 2014. And I made 10 holistic treatment recommendations for state use. Today, before we get started, I'd like to introduce you to my Facebook page manager, Lois Arias. She has been collecting your questions for submitting to Facebook so that we'd know what was on your mind and what to answer for this series. And so she'll begin reading the questions, and but I wanted her to tell you a little bit about her background.
Thank you. I have a television broadcast background, but I have not done it for 23 years. I did it for 20, but then I had my son and stayed at home. But I initially started teaching at the university that I learned videotape editing at. Then I moved to public television in New Jersey, and the last, I think, 10 years of my career, I was a videotape editor at CBS.
Good.
And I feel like things are coming full circle.
Well, I'm delighted to have her managing my Facebook mess and making making it a real professional page. So let's begin and get to the questions that people have sent in.
Okay, question number 1. I take a lot of psychiatric meds that affect my liver. A friend told me I should detox my liver regularly every 3 months to help my body control blood sugar. I find the Epsom salt, olive oil, and grapefruit juice method a little harsh. Is there a gentler way to detox?
Yes, there are many ways to detox, but let me just share the ones that have been used for a very long time. There's one that's widely used for decades, and it is using organic ground coffee, organically grown ground coffee that's not roasted, in colonics or enemas. And what this does, it was pioneered by Dr. Max Gerson, an MD, in the 1920s, and it was for treatment of cancer, holistic treatment of cancer in that time. And caffeine that's absorbed from the colon goes into the hemorrhoidal vein, which carries it to the portal system, I'm told, and then to the liver. This stimulates the liver bile ducts to open, releasing toxins into the intestinal tract for excretion, and allowing and triggering the cleansing and release of toxins from the liver, cleanses and strengthens the liver. If you want to know more about this or get supplies to do it, go to www.s as in Sam, A Wilson.com, Wilsons with an S.com, for supplies and instructions. At Hippocrates Health Institute in Florida, they use freshly pressed wheatgrass juice in colonics for detoxing the liver as well. And you also can take wheatgrass shots that cleanse and oxygenate the body and is part of their cancer treatment protocol. So the other ways of detoxifying are saunas, are wonderful detoxifiers. Your skin is your largest organ of elimination. So if you go into particularly a far infrared sauna, because the infrared light penetrates more deeply, and then come out and shower off and get the toxins off your skin so they're not reabsorbed. So, and then you can do hot and cold, which is therapeutic for healing, but also helps stimulate circulation. So those are the things that I'd suggest specifically for detoxifying the liver.
The next question actually answers a question I was going to add on, which is about chelation therapy.
Okay, but that's going to come later.
It's going to come later. Right now,
Okay.
What we'd like to know is what older people can do to prevent Alzheimer's and dementia.
Okay. The reason that no drug has yet worked for Alzheimer's is because Alzheimer's and dementia are caused, like all mental illnesses, are caused by a large number of different causes, and it can be different in each person. So, but there are things that are known to contribute to Alzheimer's. And number one is reduce the stress in your life. Stress causes your body to produce the stress hormones, adrenaline and cortisol. And these elevate, and they're a very early primal system in your body that helps you get away from danger. So whenever you are frightened or stressed in any way, those elevate. The body brings them back into balance after the danger is over by putting insulin into your system. So if you're constantly living on adrenaline, then you're going to become a diabetic. And you're also going to gain weight because insulin is the hunger hormone. And it brings the adrenaline and cortisol back into balance, but it makes you hungry because you've supposedly run away from a saber-toothed tiger and you really need to nourish yourself in case he comes back and you need to run some more. So, so constantly living on an adrenaline rush is extremely unhealthy, and in fact it damages your brain. And because this contributes to a high blood sugar. So you want to lower the stress in your life, throughout your life, before you get to Alzheimer's age. Then you also want to lower inflammation, but don't do it by taking Tylenol and other anti-inflammatory drugs all of your life, because they can damage your digestive system, and they're really not meant to be taken therapeutically every day. Inflammation in the body is the body's way of attracting what is needed to a wound, to bring the things in the body, the systems that are needed to heal. And so it has a temporary beneficial impact of attracting what's needed to heal whatever is going wrong. But constant inflammation then uses these resources inappropriately. And so constant inflammation that's triggered by too much, it can be triggered by diabetes or elevated blood sugar. It can be triggered by poor circulation. It can be triggered by wounds. It can be triggered by undiagnosed allergies that your body sees as invaders. It can be triggered by pollutants, which are also invaders. So the immune system mounts an attack on some of these things. And the American diet is very inflammatory. Red meat and all the grains are highly acidic and lead to more inflammation levels. They trickle down through the system into prostaglandins that cause inflammation. And there are different kinds of these, but to inflammatory substances in the body. And so what you first need to do is adopt an anti-inflammatory diet. And this is because inflammation leads not just to Alzheimer's, but it leads to increased risk of cancer, increased risk of heart disease. It contributes to all mental disorders. So inflammation is one of the things that leads to these degenerative diseases that we get with aging or with abuse of our bodies. So I adopted an anti-inflammatory diet it was probably in 2003 or 2002. No, it was actually 1999, so it's a long time ago. And I'm still on it today. I still follow it because inflammation increases as you age. So that's another factor that causes inflammation. And it's on my website. It'll always be on my website. It's an anti-inflammatory diet. So my website will be shown on the screen again, but go to www.crazyrecovery.com and look for anti-inflammatory diet. And so the other thing that you can do is avoid toxins, clean up your life. We're going to talk about a green life later, so I won't do that again here. And the other thing is fish oils are very anti-inflammatory. So instead of taking aspirin for inflammation or Tylenol, take fish oil. Take 1,000 milligrams 2 or 3 times a day with meals, and that will reduce your inflammation in your body. And fish oils are really needed for your brain and for all your cell membranes, so to have your brain communicate properly. So, and as you experience more oxidative stress from all this, I take the antioxidants, curcumin, resveratrol, vitamin C, and alpha-lipoic acid. And that will help you counteract inflammation.
And where can these be found, these items that you use to counteract inflammation?
Okay, those are usually in health food stores in the supplement area. I buy mine through my naturopathic doctor. I use a naturopathic doctor as my primary care physician, and I have for 17 years. And that's because they don't try to write me a prescription for everything. They're trained to treat without drugs. And so that's how I want to be treated. And that's the first thing that I go towards is what are my holistic alternatives? So I get mine through a naturopathic doctor because then I don't have to do the screening. They've been screened for potency and for allergens and fillers that shouldn't be in supplements.
Thank you. How important is a person's body mass to their overall health?
Okay, I would say the third most important thing you can do for health is to maintain a healthy weight. And the first thing that you should do is eat a healthy diet. And the second most important thing to do is exercise an hour every day in some form, even if it's just walking to work and walking home. Get some physical exercise. The body was made and meant to move and evolved to do that. And then third, pay attention to the calories that you take in. Make them nutrient dense so that the problem in America is we have lots of food, but most of it has no nourishment. It's junk food. And so the body needs fuel to create your energy, and junk food doesn't count. So first is give yourself good fuel, and then you won't feel hungry as often. Because when the body doesn't get the right nutrients it needs, it keeps saying, I'm hungry, I'm hungry, I'm hungry, because you're basically giving it sugar water. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing. And the other thing is to then make sure you get exercise, because without exercise, you're going to gain weight. You need a balance of fuel and physical activity, and when you find that balance, you won't have to watch your weight. It will just maintain the body will maintain its own balance if you're eating healthy and living healthy. And then obesity shortens your life. It causes all sorts of side effects. It's really I think it's one of the major killers in this country. And so you really want to you want quality of life. And if you are continuing to be overweight and you don't address it, the quality of your life will diminish as you age, because it gets harder to fix things when you get older. And the other thing that's happening is if you're overeating from stress or a lack of exercise or lack of taking time for yourself, making time for yourself to be healthy, you're giving a really awful example for your children, because they watch what you do, and they will do exactly what you do, not what you say. And so it's important that you set a good example of healthy eating, and that they become familiar with healthy foods and learn to like them when they're young, when it's easier to introduce new, novel things than when they're older. So yes, body mass is vitally important to your entire life. And so pay attention to that index and then take some action to bring it into the right proportion.
Now, I don't know if this is something that will be covered later or not, but are you a proponent of several small meals throughout the day rather than
yes,
the normal American
and
diet?
I can't remember if it's on this list, but we'll find out. But
Okay.
Just quickly, I eat 3 meals a day, and when I was beginning my healing, I ate 2 snacks in between those breakfast and lunch and dinner, because I had low blood sugar, and so I would get shaky and anxious and jittery and nervous in between meals if my blood sugar dropped too low. You can take chromium, which is a natural supplement that's in my daily multivitamin mineral, but you can get it on its own too, and you can take that to help keep your blood sugar in better balance. It takes about 6 months to a year to have it have an impact on stabilizing your sugar. But I no longer need the snacks most time. I just eat 3 meals a day. Lunch, 300 or 400 calories for lunch, 400 or 500 calories for, 3 or 4 for breakfast, 400 or 500 for lunch. I eat a salad for lunch every single day with lots of raw vegetables, because that's important for health too. That's where a lot of the nutrients are. And then a regular dinner with my husband, maybe 700 to 900 calories, depending on how active I've been. So what you're doing is, your body is meant to have fuel, and it's like if you let the fuel run too low, then your adrenaline kicks in. And so then you get really hungry, and you tend to rush to the cupboard and eat whatever's there and pay no attention to whether it's healthy or not. You just need calories, and so you're stuffing them. And so to avoid that impulse eating, and to avoid eating a lot more calories than what you want to take in, or empty calories because they're there, plan your meals. Have breakfast. If you know that you always get hungry and shaky before lunch, then eat an apple, eat something, a few nuts, cheese and crackers, something healthy, nourishing, that'll get you through into the next meal.
Thank you. The next question is about celiac. I was on a gluten-free diet for 6 years and didn't really notice a difference in my depression. I read going gluten-free helps with depression and hyperthyroidism. Now, I do not know if this person has been tested for celiac or hyperthyroidism.
Okay. Well, they're basically looking for a solution to depression, and that's what I took from this question. And while gluten-free, going gluten-free and avoiding gluten can help a lot of people with depression, depression has a huge number of different causes. and each person's cause may be totally unique to them. So this is where it's important to work with a practitioner to identify your causes and not just adopt something that you don't really know if this is involved in your depression or not. The common causes that are most common in our culture are a junk food diet, number one, because it's nutrient deficient. The next most common cause is low thyroid. This is been known for at least 3 decades and perhaps even more than that, that low thyroid is the classic cause of depression. So get your thyroid tested. I have sections on this in my book because when I wrote my first book, the thyroid ranges were too broad, and they were telling people, oh, your thyroid levels are fine, when in fact they weren't. And so the doctors have changed, the industry has changed those reference points so that it's narrower now. But in some people, there are 5 populations where your thyroid levels can be normal, but your symptoms are that you still have low thyroid. And what causes that is in populations of people who have undergone generations of famine, and these would include Native Americans, Russians, Scot-Irish, Welsh, and what's the other one? Maybe I put Scot and Irish together, and Welsh. But these are populations that had years of famine in their countries. And so the body, in its wisdom, down-regulated their ability to use thyroid so that they wouldn't burn through the calories so quickly, and it would improve their chances of surviving famine. So if you have any of those in your family tree, if you derive from any of those population groups, I'm Scot-Irish, and so I happen to have normal levels of thyroid, but my body temperature was 2 degrees below normal on a regular basis, and I was freezing all the time. And so I found a doctor, Dr. Dennis Wilson, who had written a book about thyroid resistance. And what he'd discovered is that these populations had downregulated thyroid use. And so it's like insulin resistance. The body, you may have enough thyroid in your system, but it can't get into the cells because of the downregulation in your family tree. So what I did to change that was I got Dr. Wilson's book off his website. He has one for patients and one for practitioners. I bought both. I read one. I decided I wanted to do the protocol to reset my body temperature. And it's a 21-day protocol where you take thyroid supplements that are made specifically by a pharmacy for this purpose. And they have active form of thyroid in them. And you take them in a 21-day cycle, 10 days, you gradually increase the rate of thyroid that you're taking in, and you chart. You have to have tests with a doctor to make sure that that it's an EKG or something like that to make sure you're healthy and this won't upset major things. And gradually increase the thyroid, and then after day 10, you'll watch and you'll see your daily temperature goes up because the thyroid is like the controls your metabolism, and it controls the heat in your body. So your temperature will rise gradually to day 10, and then you gradually taper off for 10 days. And what happens is, in most people, the body will maintain some of that higher temperature. For me, I did 3 cycles, 21-day cycles of that process because I gained a half a degree in body temperature with each cycle. And so that put me up 1.5 degrees closer to normal. While I was doing that, I also wrote down what I ate. And what I discovered is that when I ate foods that I knew that I was sensitive to or my body reacted negatively to, which includes things that I sometimes choose to eat, like spicy foods, anything in the pepper family sets me off, and chocolate, my body temperature when I was doing that would drop almost a degree when I ate those foods. So I only did 1.5 degrees of increasing my body temperature, because I felt that if I avoided the foods that I knew I reacted to, then my body temperature would go to normal. And so it has, and I take no thyroid. I did this 10 years ago. I take no thyroid medication. My thyroid's just fine, and it's now my cells are getting the amount that they need.
That's excellent.
So,
what do you think of hormone replacement therapy for women during menopause?
just a minute. I looked at this question, and I just realized that I didn't answer all the rest of it.
Oh, okay. Not a
Sorry.
problem.
I
We
got
will
off
back
on
up.
this thyroid. The other thing that you need for depression, in addition to making sure that your thyroid is working right, is you need, depression is commonly caused by a lack of omega-3 fatty acids, which are fish oils. And so fish oils, 3,000 milligrams of fish oils a day, 1,000 with each meal, lifted my depression in 48 hours. These essential fatty acids cannot be made by the body. It can only get them through diet. So you need to eat fish and seafood healthy. You want to avoid the fish that have a high mercury content, and you'll need to do some research online, but there are several sites that will come up if you say safe seafood or mercury-free seafood. And then the other thing you need to, if you have depression, is make sure your vitamin D levels, have them tested and make sure that they're in a normal range. You want around 50 to 70, I can't remember the measurements of what that's called, but you want to have optimum vitamin D levels, because lack of vitamin D, which you get from sunlight, and because we all slather on block because everybody's afraid of getting cancer, we're not getting enough sunlight on our skin. And so you need to, also, because half of us are inside working at a computer in an office that doesn't have a lot of sunlight, I go for a walk every day, and in the summertime I can get sunlight that way, but in the winter in Connecticut and in the northern hemisphere north of Florida, you do not get the ultraviolet rays in the sun anyways. So you can freeze your tush trying to get sunlight in the winter, and it's not going to raise your vitamin D. So I take 4,000 IU of vitamin D a day, and if you are low, you need to supplement with higher than that until it comes up to normal. And low vitamin D contributes to mental disorders. It also contributes to cancer. Cancer maps of the world show that the areas that have the least amount of sunlight have the most amount of cancer. So, and I think that covers it. So you can cut out wheat and you can cut out gluten, but if it doesn't do anything for you, it may or may not be important. The best thing to do is get a test for gliadin, which is gluten antibodies, from your doctor, and if you're not reactive to it, then you don't need to cut it out. But I was reactive to gluten and didn't know it because I had no digestive symptoms. I had severe arthritis in both shoulders that was so painful. For 3 years I couldn't sleep on either side at night. And when I changed my diet and eliminated wheat and gluten, that went away in 6 weeks. So a lot of people who are very arthritic actually have food allergies and sensitivities that are undiagnosed because their symptoms aren't in their gut. Their symptoms may be arthritis in other parts of their body.
When I found out I had celiac, I made sure that my son was genetically tested, and he tested negative, which is great.
Great. So testing is really important when there's an obvious when there's likely to be an obvious deficiency. And 60% of Americans are low in vitamin D because of our lifestyle and situations.
Not enjoying this.
Okay, let's then go to the next one.
That one was what you think of hormone replacement therapy for those going through menopause.
I have mixed feelings about this. I guess it depends. What I did is at the time that I was going through menopause, I had an organic medicinal herbal tea business. And I made a tea called Women's Rights, R-I-T-E-S. And and it had herbs that are known to help balance women's hormones. And I drank that tea through menopause, and as my doctor said to me, you apparently have breezed through menopause. And I did, but it was the tea. And so there are herbs that you can use and try and work with an herbalist or a naturopathic doctor to get those and put them into a tea. And I drank 1 cup a day, and that was not onerous. You can balance the herbs so that they taste good. So that would be my first recommendation for women. If that doesn't work for you, or if there are extremes, then I would consult a holistic oriented endocrinologist, and that doesn't include all endocrinologists. I went to one and worked with him on, I think it was on the thyroid issue, before I found out about Dr. Wilson. And it helped a little, but it really wasn't the solution. And if you take hormones, there's a big difference. You want bioidentical, naturally derived hormones. You do not want pharmaceutical patented hormones, because in order to get patent protection, they often take natural supplements or natural sources of a solution and then alter a molecule slightly in order to make it a unique molecule that they can patent. And this is what's believed to cause a lot of the side effects of pharmaceuticals, is that the body really didn't evolve using these alien substances, these chemicals. And even if it's Premarin, which is horse urine, this is not something that's natural in your body, and it's probably been altered to gain patent protection. And so it causes side effects that increase the risk of cancer. And so you don't want to do this. So work with holistic practitioners and use the holistic remedies first, and they do exist. And then if you cannot find a solution using a variety of different practitioners, then do what you need to do to get through this natural stage. But I think it's very possible to go without any drugs through this whole life phase.
Great. How can I change my food addictions, such as chocolates, sweets, and ice cream?
Well, understand that the most addictive substance in the world is sugar. So as soon as you put sugar in your mouth, about 4 hours later, you're going to want more sugar, because that's the addictive cycle. So for a certain part of my life, what I did is I only ate sugar when I'd had food in my stomach, so that it wasn't, you're adding this addictive substance on an empty stomach. And so your blood sugar shoots way up. And then what happens is it shoots way down, because there's no nutrition in your system. So it goes abnormally low, and that's when I would get shaky and anxious, is when my blood sugar dropped so much. And the women in my family are all diabetics, so we have unstable blood sugar anyways. So I knew that would be a challenge. So I would only eat sweets after dinner as a treat, and when I had a lot of food in my stomach, and I knew that 4 hours later I would be asleep. So when the craving started for more sugar, I would be safely asleep. And I did that for a lot of years. What I have had friends that eat healthy most of the time, but they have, if there's chocolate or cookies or one of their favorite sweets in the house, they can't resist. They eat it until it's gone. So for that kind of an addiction, I suggested that they go do hypnotherapy. You can use hypnotherapy. It's very effective for stopping smoking. It's effective for any addictive type of thing. It will, a good hypnotherapist is your best friend in that. So that's what I would suggest for food addictions. If it's really an addiction and it's not something that you're able to have any sensible control over, then get hypnotherapy. It's not expensive, it's quick, and it's quite effective.
What do you think about fasting and juice cleanses?
I don't do them because of my unstable blood sugar history. I am very cautious about letting my body get too desperate for nutrition. But I do believe in them. For many people, what fasting does is when you're just taking in, and a lot of people try to do a fast with fruit juices, and that's the worst thing because you've got all this fructose in it, so it's really spiking your sugar and then spiking your sugar and spiking your sugar. If you're going to do a fast and a cleanse, you really used to use vegetable juices that are low glycemic, that don't have all the sugars in them. You can have a little bit of sugars and carrots, but not straight carrot juice all the time because that's a lot of sugar. So keep the juices green because you want chlorophyll, you want herbs, you want green juices, you want something, celery. I use cucumbers. So I believe in green juices, and I do believe in cleanses and certain amount of fasting if your system can do that. Because what that allows is by not giving your body a lot of food to digest, and giving green things are usually raw, and so you have the natural enzymes intact in the leaves and the vegetables that you're juicing, so that you don't have to produce digestive enzymes. So those give the body a rest. And so if you can, and then it can do better detoxification because you're hydrated. And you're giving enough nourishment through the greens and that most people can tolerate it quite well, and you'll feel clear-headed, you'll feel light, you'll feel healthy and energetic because it takes a lot of energy to digest food all the time. And that's why when you're sleeping, your body does all the cleansing and the detoxification and all the healing processes when your other systems are not being required. So I believe in it, but research, either do it under some health practitioner's direction and instruction, or do research online and find some really healthy juices. Don't just do all sugary stuff and feel it's great for you because it's not. You need to have it. Cleansing, a lot of greens because that changes your system from acid, and we're all too acidic with the Western diet, to more alkaline. And cancer cells can't live in an acidic environment, or they thrive in an acidic environment. They can't live in an alkaline environment. So pathogens will be diminished if you do the cleansing with greens and vegetables.
Do you recommend that men and women take a baby aspirin every day to prevent a stroke?
No. I don't say that doctors are wrong because that's studied and it's well known to prevent from causing strokes. But to me, the better thing is, since Americans are all deficient in essential fatty acids, take fish oils. Fish oils slightly thin the blood, and so take fish oil every day, and that will thin your blood and reduce your risk of stroke, and it will give all of your cells, including your brain cells, the essential fats that they need, because the cell's membranes, the outer membrane of the cell is all made from the fats that we take in. And I don't know if I've talked about fats. I don't think I did here, so I'll go a little bit deeper into that. What I learned about mental illness and why the fish oils were so important to my depression is that if you don't have enough essential fats in your diet, then the body uses whatever fat is available. So if you've been taking in trans fats or fried foods where the fats are damaged by the high heat of frying, or fats that are altered in any way, I use extra virgin olive oil to make salad dressings with, but whatever kind of oil, be it nut oil, olive oil, canola oil, you do not want it to be heat processed because that damages the fat molecules and the body can't use them as effectively. So you want natural fats, olive oil, and not heat treated when they're extracted. The fish oils are particularly important because they're used in all the cell membranes, and the cells communicate through the membranes with each other. So in the brain, the cells are communicating through this membrane. And they've done testing, and they know that if you use fish oils, your communication is more rapid than if you're using trans fats or bad oils. It slows down the communication in the brain. So an overload of these fats. And it's believed that we need a ratio of the omega-6 fatty acids, which dominate the American diet, and those are in cheese and meats and things that the omega-3s are in fish and nuts, and particularly walnuts and flaxseed. And so the American diet has roughly, they estimate, a ratio of omega-6s to omega-3s of 20 omega-6s for every omega-3 in the American diet. And a healthy ratio is believed to be between 4 omega-3s to 1 or 4 omega-6s to 1 omega-3, or some say it should be a 1-to-1 ratio. We should have as many omega-3s as we do omega-6s. So there's a big imbalance in the American diet, and everybody needs to increase their intake of omega-3 essential fatty acids, and that would prevent the stroke, because your blood gets thinned by these omega-3 fatty acids, whereas it's more sludgy if it has an inflammatory diet that's loaded with trans fats and these other substances.
Do you think getting a second opinion on most medical diagnoses is a good idea?
Yes. I wouldn't say for everything, but it's certainly anything that's serious, where you're going to have surgery. I think that it's prudent and smart to do that. You may feel a little guilty. Oh, I'm going to upset my surgeon, or I'm going to upset my doctor if I do this. But nobody's perfect, and people work at a high pace. Doctors have a lot of patients to see, and they're very busy. And nobody knows your body better than you do. So it's important that you listen to what your doctor says and what he recommends, and pay attention to that. Maybe even write down notes, or have someone with you if it's a serious surgery where you want somebody. You may be panicky and not able to hear things as clearly as a disinterested person.
Definitely.
And so it's always helpful to have someone with you. But then get a second opinion. Don't tell the second doctor what anybody said. Just go in and tell them what you've got and ask what they recommend. And they may come up with treatments or therapies that are different and give you other options that you'd rather do. So I think it's really helpful and smart to do so. Not for every hangnail, but for things that are serious and will cost a lot of money, or take a lot of, or be life-threatening.
I've had several doctors say, feel free to get a second opinion.
Yeah, and I think
when it was something serious.
Yeah, I think that's wise.
It is. It shows their ego is not in charge.
Yes.
Because we know about that.
Right.
Do you think there are hidden effects from chemicals in our beauty products, shampoos, makeup, hair products?
Yes. I don't think that these were necessarily intentional. I think these are based on a lot of ignorance of the impact of chemicals on human health. In the 1950s, chemicals were kings. They were seen as the newest, greatest, most amazing things, and drugs and chemicals were, you've all seen antique videotapes of airplanes spraying DDT over kids playing in a yard and saying how wonderful this pesticide is, that you don't have to worry about bugs decimating your garden. And now we know that it's extremely dangerous and damaging to the body, and increases the risk of cancer. And all chemicals, the body didn't evolve to them. Doesn't need them. The accumulation of chemicals in our society, including beauty products and the things that you put on your skin are really important. There's estimated, then nobody really knows, it's estimated there's over 80,000 chemicals in use today. And most of them have not been tested for safety. So, and the other fact to remember is that everything you put on your skin is absorbed and gets into your bloodstream within a minute. So if you're slathering on chemical-laden cosmetics, including sunblock, you're getting all these chemicals into your system. In my book, I talked about an organization that does testing of umbilical cord blood in babies, newborn babies chosen at random, that are tested for the amount of chemicals that they're carrying. And they're carrying, I think it was the last testing, and you have to look for my book, but it's in this range. It's over 180 different chemicals in the umbilical cord blood of newborns. And something like 100 of them are known to be carcinogenic. So what's happening is that babies come into this world, they inherit their mother's toxic load, and then they take on their own toxic load in their lifetime. So we're all walking toxin carriers. And so detoxification, which I think we're going to talk about later, is really important, but avoiding putting in toxins every day is even more important. So limit the kinds and amounts of drugs you take. If you don't need a drug, don't take it. If you don't need to ingest that chemical, don't do it. When I started to end my bipolar because the drug that I was taking, Wellbutrin, had triggered breast cysts and tumors. So first, I fought to discover what was causing the breast cysts and tumor growth. And in that process, I learned all about environmental toxins, because that was my first fear, was that the toxic load was causing this, and I was surrounded by toxins. And so I got really into environmental issues for about 6 years. And at that time, I cleaned up my house. I got rid of all cleaning products in my house that were chemicals. I go to biodegradable, plant-based cleaning products. Then I got rid of anything that touches my skin, or I put on my body, or I shampoo with, that has chemicals in it. And I use only plant-based. I try to get organic. You can't always get organic cosmetics, but you can get plant-based cosmetics. Sometimes, for years, I had to order them online, but they're very common in Germany and in Europe, and so they are available in America online. And so that's what I used. Now, with the awareness, the autism epidemic has spurred awareness of toxins and the impact on children. And so there's many product lines that have come out recently. And so it's easy now to go into stores and ask, okay, do you have plant-based cosmetics? Shampoos, cosmetics, stuff that you use for sunblock, lotions, anything. I use it all plant-based, and that will help you reduce your toxic load and avoid diseases as you get older.
Great. How can I learn to motivate myself to get off the couch and do something physical? Okay, who submitted that for me? Was it you?
I guess what I try to do is you know yourself. You know yourself better than anybody else. So you know, okay, what motivates me? Is it fear? I was motivated to make dramatic changes when I was having rapid growth of breast cysts and tumors. I mean, nothing motivates anybody more than fear, probably. So that's a very primal motivation. So when I was confronted with my naturopathic doctor saying, okay, you need to cut all of this out of your diet and you need to eat only these things that are healthy. And I looked at it and I said, what can I eat? And she said, these things are all very healthy and there's lots of, and so how I motivated myself is I said, okay, do you want to do everything you can to avoid taking in more toxins and to clean up your system, or do you want to deal with cancer? So that was the kind of question I asked myself. And it's a no-brainer. Myself said, oh, I really don't want to deal with cancer. I don't want to go through chemo, which adds more chemicals into your system. and maybe is important to some people, but I just didn't want to go there. And so do whatever you need to do to psych yourself out, to figure it out. If you say, okay, if I go and do a run every morning for 15 minutes, or if I go and do this, then I can have this. I can have sugar in my coffee, or I can have, give yourself some reward. If I do this, then I don't have to do that, or I can do that. Whatever it takes to use your own psyche to encourage yourself, give yourself motivation to make change. If I go do this, then I can eat that. Or if I run, or, well, I know that if I play tennis, which I like to do anyways, if I play tennis 3 times a week in the winter, when we're all more sedentary and getting exercise is harder in Connecticut because walking outside may or may not be possible because it may be so icy. If I go and play tennis every day, every 3 days a week, I know I don't have to watch my weight. I don't have to worry about gaining that 10 pounds in the winter that goes on if you don't do some exercise. So that's how the deal I make with myself is if I go do that, it's something I like, and then I don't have to worry about my weight, and I don't have to worry about different size of clothes in the winter and in the summer. So find ways to psych yourself out. The other thing is go to hypnotherapy. That's another way. If you're not able to figure it out and give yourself rewards and for what you're doing, then get professional help. Okay, we have 5 minutes, so
Okay, I'm going to ask what green living is all about since we were talking about that.
That's a good idea. What it basically means is eliminating as much as possible all the chemicals in your life. And this, if people talk about green homes, and these are homes that don't have toxic substances used. A lot of the glues and things that they use to glue down floors and to put on wallpaper and to do wall boards and carpets and stuff are very toxic fumes. So you move into a new house and all of a sudden you may have a headache, or you move into a new apartment that you didn't have any control over how it was being built. And the outgassing from all of these products may be causing an autistic child to really have problems, or an asthmatic child to have problems. So what everyone's moving towards through awakening awareness of how chemical our life is and what it's doing to us health-wise, is they're looking for plant-based natural products that don't give off these gases and that are the least offensive to the human body. So that includes how the house is built, all the substances that are used, the fabrics that are used, whether they're treated with chemicals. Children's fire retardant pajamas are treated with a horrible chemical. So a lot of this has been done in the past through ignorance, but we're catching on, we're catching up. And so I'm not being critical of people, I'm just saying we're progressing as a culture and we're becoming more aware of the things that are making us sick. And so all these chemicals are too much toxic load, and it's making everybody sick. So what you want to do is go through your garage, go through your house. Don't put chemicals on your lawn. Those dandelions don't pose any toxic risk to you, and you don't need to spray pesticides on them that increase the risk of cancer to your pets, your dog, your cat, your children that are on those lawns. So avoid chemicals wherever you can and use natural substances. You can make sprays in your garden that are from oil and a plant-based soap and pepper and what else? Garlic ground up into it, and spray your plants, and they're not so tasty to pests and they don't use that. So you can look at organic gardening books to know how to do all that. There's lots of them out there. And just try to gradually go green, go natural, go to what you could use if you were on a farm and you had no contact with society. The things that you had to use in that simpler life are much healthier for you. So we have 2 more minutes.
Okay. The next question was, what is homeopathy?
I think let's go to how to find a reliable alternative medical
That sounds
practitioner,
fun,
because
too.
I can do that in 2 minutes.
Okay.
Basically, what I recommend is that you, if you can, go to the American Association of Naturopathic Physicians website, which is www.naturopathic.org, or you can Google American Association of Naturopathic Physicians. And on that website, there is a practitioner, find a practitioner mechanism where you can click and then you can put in your zip code and how many miles you're willing to drive to see a naturopathic doctor. You can do from 2 or you can do to 25 if you're in a rural area where there's not going to be close by. And it then brings up a list of NDs, naturopathic doctors, in your region. And they have 4-year training, medical school training on how to treat and heal illnesses without drugs using homeopathic treatment, which I'll explain next, coming up in another session. But they also use herbs, homeopathic treatment, teas, lifestyle and dietary changes, a lot of natural and natural supplements. So they're the best guide because of their training to help you find holistic ways of living. And so I suggest you go to naturopathic.org and put in your zip code and then check out the websites of the doctors that you find on hand. I have been using a naturopathic doctor, as I said, for 17 years, and she is wonderful, and it's just made a huge difference to have someone as a resource to guide you. I can do all the research, but I'm not a trained practitioner, so I want someone to bounce ideas off of and to steer me in the right direction if I'm veering off in the wrong direction.
Well, this has been a delight as always.
Thank you for your questions and for helping me with the Facebook
need
page.
more.
We need more questions. Please, you'll see a slide next about how to submit questions for this show. And thank you for tuning in. I hope you'll join us again next week, Wednesday night at 7 p.m. on Channel 12 SEC TV.